I've been having an interesting time lately, where there's some contrast and it's there, and then I feel like, okay, I should ignore it, but I keep getting pulled to it, and I realized I had this really clear moment where I realized that I really wanted to get down to that point of where I really, really knew what I didn't want, because I needed to get there to make that jump. And I realized that in trying to ignore it, it was just kind of this nebulous, powerless feeling. But then when I actually broke down to went super specific versus I kept trying to pull myself general, and I realized that if I dove all the way into it and really got down to what it was, then all of a sudden I could see the other end of it, I could see the other end of the pole, and it wasn't that big of a deal.
This is brilliant, and let's chew this over to get the fullness from it. So, when you said, sometimes I can see contrast, and we wanted to jump in just for a little bit and say, can you replace that word with choices? Because the way you were using the word contrast, you meant the really, really unwanted.
Or exploration, yeah,
But in the really, really unwanted is awareness of what is wanted, which you can't know without some exploration in the contrast. And that's why a making joyful peace with unwanted contrast really serves you. So you heard us say that, so now say what you said before you heard us say that, because it's the same thing.
Making peace with it and really knowing it and just letting it be what it is, and then taking that jump from it because you have that knowledge.
And what is it? That's what we want to hear from you. What is it? What is unwanted contrast? What really is it?
Expansion.
It's clarity. It's focus. It's deliberate creation. Would you like a camera that doesn't have the ability to tell the difference between light and dark? It couldn't come into focus at all, could it? Mm-hmm. In other words, contrast is good stuff.
Definitely, and it was like this trying to avoid it. It ended up keeping it lingering longer because
you're right on it. You're right on it. So trying to avoid it. Now feel the tension in that. You want to talk about a specific subject?
Not really.
So I want abundance. I don't want absence of abundance. But I don't want poverty, and I don't want debt, and I don't want fear, and I don't want to not be able to do what I want to do, and I don't want debt collectors, and I don't want my parents to be on my back, and I don't want, well, in that contrast of wanted and unwanted, there's a lot of tension in the unwanted side of that, where if what I want is what I want, and the opposite of it is what I've got, let's say, and it doesn't matter where I am because what I want is what's dominant, then the absence of it just melts into the presence of it. It's like I want wellness, but I've got sickness. And the sickness is unwanted and pervasive, let's say. In the relaxing into where I stand, there is a releasing of resistance which allows the wellness that is rampant now to have its way. Someone says, my vortex is having its way with me. So when you understand that what you want is having its way with you, if not for the resistance that you've got going on, and you find a way to make peace with the resistance because it's part of the process, then the contrast only serves you and never hinders you.
Totally.
Yes.
And it's that moment too of I've really been enjoying being out of the vortex. It's been this weird moment of just realizing wow, this is okay. It's because there was this fear around it. Once I found out, okay, I'm deliberately creating, then all of a sudden whenever I was out of the vortex, it was this intense fear of I know I'm not where I want to be. I know I'm not allowing my source. So then that's even more out of the vortex, because then you're even getting thrown further, But then it's that realization of, okay, this is fine. And there's so much well-being just trying to get to you that it's not that big a deal.
It is just so much more delicious to live life from your perspective of full view, seeing the world through the eyes of source. We liked how you tied that in the vortex alignment with your inner being with the idea of channeling, because in a situation like this, where Esther and you too are allowing the fullness of who you are to flow. You in your question are as aligned as Esther in the answer that is flowing through. It's a co-creative dance. And the fact that you're asking the question doesn't mean you're out of the vortex. That's the point that we're wanting to make. Do you get that? Yeah. The fact that you're asking the question doesn't mean it's part of the co-creative dance. It's possible to have this step 1, step 2, step 3 process that's flowing so rhythmically that you reach the point where you don't even want to define whether this is the out of the vortex part or whether it's in the vortex part, because all of it is part of the expansion part, and the potential for joy is always there. It's an instantaneous shift of thought away. Yes? Yeah. Good time for a segment of confession.